The tanks are symbolic. They're symbolic of a much bigger issue. Is Putin about to widen the war to stake his own future on his military leadership? And does that threaten or bring closer a war with NATO in Eastern Europe?
Let's talk about tanks. Ukraine needs weapons, more weapons, while we wait to see whether this inevitable spring offensive takes the war to a new level of intensity and which sides make the first big move. There's a frantic tallying of which side is best equipped to get the upper hand. The Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has been pleading for modern battle tanks for months. Germany has developed now an unenviable reputation for being reluctant to send its advanced Leopard tanks or to give permission to other countries to send their Leopards, which is technically required. Although now Poland doesn't seem to care. Warsaw suggesting it'll hand over Leopard tanks to Ukraine whether Germany likes it or not. Let's all, Kate and George, talk to Robert Fox, the defence editor of the London Standard, who knows more about these things than most of us will ever know. She's forgotten more things than most of us will ever know. Welcome to you, Robert.
Good evening.
Good to have you. So Germany then seems to be marking itself out as an unreliable, or at the very least a very unenthusiastic ally. Robert, is that fair?
Yes, it's got itself into a very unenviable position, which it didn't expect to be. And I have this from a source who was very close in on the discussions between defense ministers and then the ministers, and then the force developers at Ramstein. And this quite senior British source put it to me rather succinctly. He said Germany had always seen itself, because of its mighty economy, as the European leader, and the vehicle always would be the EU, the European Union, that union. It has underestimated the need to be prominent in NATO. Now, this has been there from the very beginning, from when it was admitted into NATO, when it was allowed to be part of the nuclear pact, to have nuclear forces based there. They have been extremely reluctant. And there's no doubt about it that the Scholz government has been playing the super reluctant card. They've been generous in money and other things. In monetary terms, probably more generous than Britain even, but it is really stuck, and they have got to come off the fence now, because the tanks are symbolic. They're symbolic of a much bigger issue. Is Putin about to widen the war to stake his own future on his military leadership? And does that threaten or bring closer a war with NATO in Eastern Europe?
Robert, how do you read the German mind on all of this? There is certainly a hangover from World War II, a sort of sense of guilt over Germany's conduct and relationship with Russia in that awful war on the Eastern Front. There's also, some say, maybe more cynically, I don't know, the idea that some in Germany are looking ahead to a productive economic relationship with Russia after the war is over. Is it any or all of those things, do you think?
Well, it's a lot of elements, as you say, in this bag. Let's start with focus groups and the indication that well over a quarter of Germans are for better relations with Russia and not for the war. Much the same is taking place in Italy and other quite prominent EU members. They're playing on that. This is unnecessary. This is a nuisance. Can we get it out of the way? Can we do the minimum possible? That has not worked because Scholz has been shown to be weak. And this is a thing that his foreign minister, Annalena, the leader of the Greens, her name has just slipped my mind at the moment, but she has been emphasizing that you've got to have a positive stance, you've got to be collegiate, you've got to be with your allies on this. And this is where somebody like Ben Wallace, for instance, sounds articulate, clear, and with a vision. Even clearer, perhaps, dare I say, than Emmanuel Macron, who's want to go it alone, want to talk peace 1 minute, and want to talk war. But it looks as if the war is about to widen.
Yes.
And it looks as if the geopolitics chess is about to get much worse.
Yes, I mean, when the war develops, as you say, into the spring offensive, we just wonder who is going to kick it off, who's going to make the first move, and will Ukrainian be in a position to resist or even push those Russian lines back? I mean, what is your betting on that now? It looks as if they're going to get the sort of tank supplies they've been hoping for. They have been getting an awful lot, haven't they, by way of other high-grade equipment.
Well, to hold the line first and then to push back, they do need the heavy armor. Zelensky, more to point, his generals have made the point that they need that. You need really good tanks to kill tanks, and they're very fearful of the appearance of the Russian T-90 now on the battlefield. But to support armor in the combined arms battle, as it's put, you need really good air. You can use rockets, you can use missiles, but actually, and again, this is where Germany and America have been playing the game of hiding behind each other. Again, they need to retool the Ukrainian Air Force, because it does look now, unless there is a catastrophic collapse by either party, that this war will go on for years. It will go on well into next year, I think. And at the moment, the Western alliance, for all the rhetoric, is not showing that as an alliance it's prepared for it, and individual nations. By that I mean the Britons, the Italys, and the Germanys in particular are ready for it. But watch the canary in the cage, in the mine rather. Look at the attitude of the Dutch over the weekend. They have moved. They are normally quite pacific. They have said that they're prepared to consider sending their Leopards quite quickly, because they're the most suitable tank at the moment, and even possibly F-16 aircraft. What has scared the Dutch? What is scaring the Finns? What is scaring the Poles, the Balts, and the Romanians, who are really worried about this prospect? They are seriously and reasonably worried about the prospect of the widening war.
Robert, it's George Parker. Just talking to some British defence officials, they say that a long drawn-out war of the kind you were just describing would serve the interests of Vladimir Putin, and therefore there's a need for an early breakthrough in this conflict. Is that your reading of the situation as well? And if so, is it really wishful thinking? Are we really here talking about the Ukrainians holding the line rather than making some big military breakthrough in the first couple of months of 2023?
George, the military breakthrough, I just don't think is on the cards for the next few months, because there's a lot that has to be done with the Ukrainian forces and the mobilization of Ukrainian society, which has been extraordinary and unexpected hitherto. But this kind of thinking, and some of the deepest thinking behind it, is that Putin, it was put beautifully in a colleague of ours, Luke Harding's book, Invasion. Putin has now achieved, whether he wanted it when he set out, a military dictatorship in Russia. He is about to put Russia on a war footing. Greater mobilization, expanding the standing and reserve forces available to 1.5 million. But more to the point, is mobilizing at all costs industry for the war effort. Go on. Putin then lives or loses by his military career and his military success. Now, this is where this will become obvious by the midsummer, and I think that this is where we're in trouble. We have got an aggressive military dictator in Eastern Europe who has to be seen to win, and he will push the winning card, otherwise it's over for him. That is the British thinking. I've been talking to people who know Putin, who track the career, people like Fiona Hill. They absolutely follow this. It's going to be, she said, the worst would be a kind of North Korea with much of the economy in rubble, but a load of nukes.